Recording in progress.
Got it.
Yeah. So this week I've been thinking a little bit more about this is very metaphysical, but just how reality itself, it can just change so much so quickly. I think it's fascinating in it, how directly correlated it is with a lot of like how well you take care of yourself, like how much sleep you have, like the biological sides of things. Like I noticed this week I slept better, and so everything seemed a little bit brighter, seemed a little bit more enjoyable. I wasn't as irritable. Complaints that other people have said didn't seem to phase me as much, and like just that right there, if like something simple can alter, your mind. And I thought just from a biological point of view of like taking care of your body, how that can really affect the way you see everything. So super simple, but just I guess it's the little things.
Yeah, for sure. Quality sleep just makes everything better. Like I know we kind of touched on that last time with talking about rest and active rest, and rest being more of a, it's restful, but there's a lot going on when we rest in terms of those resets. And it's funny that that's what you opened it up with, because one of the big things that I was going to talk about this week was just change in general, because this is a big transition for me. This is a big change, in my life, like just in normal day-to-day living, and kind of in like really jump shipping careers a little bit.
Going from scientist to teacher,
Yeah. Scientist to math teacher is a big jump. And but I mean, there is a lot of math in science, and it's a lot of the math I use every single day. So but I think just like this week or the past couple weeks have challenged some of my not beliefs, but just how I've been interacting with the world, like basically. And we talked about this a little bit, I think unrecorded, but we have so many unknowns in life, and kind of like that metaphor or vision that I gave you of kind of standing on the shore, and like the horizon is the future, and you kind of don't really know what's between you and the future. Like, is it choppy waters? Is it smooth sailing? What's the ocean looking like? Is it crashing? Is it stormy? Is it pleasant? Is it serene? And we don't really know. And having endured a lot over the past, year or so, with a lot of stuff in my personal life and family, and just kind of feeling like, wow, you really never know what's coming, and almost having that more as negative is a strong word, but it's definitely been something I've been experiencing, just with sudden loss, and feeling like, wow, so much is out of my control and I don't know what's coming, and kind of almost feeling like I have to be braced for the worst. And that's been something that I've just really been in that space for the past year and a half or so, since losing some family members very abruptly, and then COVID outbreak, and a lot of other stuff. But anyway, without getting too personal, but then the past 2 weeks really challenged that, in that, yeah, you never know what's coming, and that can be really good. Like, I had no idea that Thursday was gonna get an email like, hey, do you want to come teach middle school math? And all these other things. Or that Tuesday that I was gonna go totally, change my hair and get bangs. Or that, I mean, I guess I had some idea, but that Wednesday I was going to teach my first yoga class, and just kind of like, I didn't know on that Sunday, let's say, what the week ahead was going to have and hold. And it was a beautiful week. And like I told you last Sunday, I was like, I think I've just had the best week of my life. And what would that have been? Like 2 weeks ago, Sunday, I had no idea that was going to happen. And so sometimes the unknown is really cool, and it leaves a lot of opportunity for us I think it wouldn't have all been as exciting and fast paced and passionate if I had this vision of, this is how this week is going to go. So I've also had this kind of epiphany, if you will, of like, yeah, change isn't bad, and change can actually be really good, and it can be really exciting, especially if it's in the wake of something you've always been wanting to do or pursue. And so I have this whole new, more positive outlook on change, which feels really good, because change can be exciting, and it can be intriguing, and it can be fascinating, it can be new, and it is totally unexpected maybe. And so the unknown is not always a scary place, and that's been really powerful to relearn over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I think I couldn't feedback on mine. Okay, it went away. What's the thing in Harry Potter, the luck potion? Is it just called a luck potion?
Felix Felicis?
I feel like so lazy. Honestly, I've had a few of those moments like where things just clicked for
Come
whatever
on,
reason. Oh,
army.
Harry Potter. Yeah, and I remember one week, it was right during COVID, like the very beginning. I remember I was just really just also meditating a lot, doing the classic things. And I remember I just had this like mindset of like being very open to new experiences in a very positive way. Like I was very open. And so I would just literally go outside. Nobody's doing anything hardly. It's pretty much everything shut down. I just kind of wander like around NC State's campus or wander wherever. I remember just like I ran into three people like every day. And I was like almost expecting it. I was like, something's going to happen. And like one time I ran into uh, this homeless guy named Brian, and he's just, super philosophical. And it was just fun shooting the breeze with him. He's a really interesting character. And I just feel like that was like a lucky moment, like I don't know, just felt special. And then the next day, um, I was wandering around NCC's campus again. I ran into this one guy named Andrew, and he's like, he knows so much about botany and plants and insects. And it was in like, I can't remember, Sullivan or one of the halls anyway. And he had like all these plants set up, and like he had these crazy bugs because the insects were like had to get killed or something because of COVID, or like no one was there or something. So he took some of the insects and like was kind of raising them in like the main lounge area. And I was like, that was just nuts. Like, how did I run into this person? It's like so outside of um, my own little world. And those moments of momentum or luck or whatever you want to call it, it's really exciting to me because it reminds me, kind of like you said, it reminds um, that there are other worlds out there. There are so many small worlds out there outside of the mainstream that are, some of them are terrible, but some of them are amazing. And I don't even know they exist. And it's exciting to believe as an act of faith that those things exist that are outside of my current world that I can, explore. And it makes the life a little bit more fun when you have that like exploring mindset of like things are out there, and the great unknown, it's great and some of it's bad, some of it's good, but the belief that there's good out there is it's exciting, and it makes life a little bit more fun and a little bit more exciting whenever it becomes mundane.
I think it's also just in terms of this change in like giving my 2 weeks at work and heading into a new job in the middle of a school year. Like it's just a lot of moving pieces, but I think it's very empowering because it kind of reminds me that like I have a lot of power and a lot of say over my life, which is for I think it's a pretty unique situation to be in. Just being here, having resources, having the ability to, you know, have a say over a career and not really have a lot of extenuating circumstances that I'm stressed about. But um, that's been a big thing for me the past few weeks is like, and I think this is an affirmation that I talk to you about that I work with a lot, but just the my journey is my own and I claim it now. And that's just such a beautiful way of summing it up. Like, you can, and I have this little plaque in my apartment and it's that F. Scott Fitzgerald quote. And I can't get it quite right, but it's the like, for what it's worth, if you find that you're living a life that you aren't proud of, I hope you have the courage to start over.
Mm.
Just knowing that you can start over. And not that I haven't been proud of myself, that's not at all what I'm saying. And I've loved the job that I've been in, but just doing something I've always wanted to do and kind of having that courage to act on it and to take it and to leave the known and to go into more unknown territory. It's empowering and it's courageous and it just reminds me all the things that change can be, and it doesn't have to be negative. And even though there's discomfort with change, right? Like leaving my current job is very sad. I'm going to miss a lot of my coworkers, and entering middle school math, middle of the school year is a little daunting, but that's okay. And that really kind of reminding myself that discomfort doesn't really tell you that much. Discomfort isn't that meaningful. Like it doesn't mean, oh, you're doing the wrong thing, or because these are just natural processes of change, I think. Like, yeah, it's going to stir up some negative emotions, but
Hmm.
if the overall effect is positive or beneficial in terms of doing something you love or something you're passionate about or whatever it is. I mean, obviously this might not be applicable to every single situation. There might be more negatives in one situation than another. But overall, I think it's reminding me that you can embrace some of those discomforts and it doesn't really tell you anything meaningful in terms of the decision you've made. If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah,
Because
no, no, I completely agree. But I think it has to be based off of the premise that you're going to enjoy it once you push past. So it's like I wouldn't try to do something that makes me uncomfortable. Well, I've done it before, but I'm not going to do it anymore. But do things just for the sake of being uncomfortable. Sometimes I would do that just to like, test myself. But let's say, I mean, dancing is a perfect example. I mean, I've dove full into it. And when I first started, I kind of tested the waters, kind of slowly approaching it and kind of getting a feel for it. And my main thing in the back of my mind is like, would I enjoy this? And it's kind of a hard game to play because you don't really know. And so if you think you might, then it's worth a shot. Um, and then obviously there's a problem of, well, how far do I go? How much do I persist before I just give up and try something new?
right.
But yeah, I had lots of negative emotions towards dancing at the beginning. Well, when I moved to Austin, I did do like a social dance class at NC State, which kind of eased me into it. But I went solo to dance halls, and it was just very, anxiety producing. I mean, going by yourself in an unknown foreign land, tons of unknown chaos. I don't understand the rules. I don't understand the people. I don't know who they are. There's no, yeah. So that was a lot, but I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, I kind of enjoy dancing. I think this will be good. I think I kind of analyzed it and had my, you know, analytical reasons for doing things. And I was like, well, and I braced myself. I said, okay, Ben, you're going to have a lot of negative emotions. You're going to be very nervous. You're going to be anxious.
Yep.
And sorry, but that's the part of it. And then once I went in there expecting it, it's like I could take a step back from myself at times, and be like, like after I, dance with somebody, I had no idea what I was doing. I stepped on their feet, and then they're just like, oh, I was like, well, that's just what it is. That's just the price I have to pay for going into the unknown. And maybe it's worth it, maybe it's not. That's the tough question. But for me, it's been worth it for that example.
And that just ties perfectly into the allowing yourself to make mistakes and being a beginner and you can't expect yourself to have it figured out. And it like kind of an analogy I really love for this is um you go out to eat, like let's say we go to a restaurant we've never been before, and I generally know what I like, right? Maybe I'm feeling a little adventurous. And so I make an informed decision about what I'm gonna order. But I have no idea if I'm gonna like what I get or not until I actually try it. And I think that analogy is just super helpful for me. Like, okay, I have a lot of information. I know my general likes and food preferences and whatever. But so I'm not gonna go order something that I just know, like, okay, well, I don't really like this food. So I'm probably not gonna make myself try that, but something maybe I'm not sure about, or I don't know. I think sorry, I don't know what's up with my voice today. I think yeah, you just a big part of things is you don't know if you're gonna like it till you try it, and even maybe those uncomfortable emotions at first, they're not necessarily even indicative if you do or don't like it. It's just like, is this really telling me anything, or is it just that I'm in a dance hall with a bunch of people I don't know and I don't know what I'm doing, and that's a little bit nerve wracking.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because I think one thing that I've been thinking about a lot this week, is a lot of times we like things just because they're familiar
Mhm.
and they feel comfortable. And I'm just thinking, like, how do I boil myself, like, like the frog boiling in water, he doesn't even notice it. That science experiment where the frogs won't jump out of the water if you do it slow. It's like that they got normalized to the
Right.
water. And it's like, I guess you could even say it's a slippery slope analogy too. But you can choose your direction. You can choose the slippery slope in a positive way or slippery slope in a negative way of just slowly, incrementally changing to get the desired outcome, or when you're just not paying attention and the culture steers you in whatever direction it goes. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say though.
I
Oh,
also just wanted to add with the change of everything, it just seems like so perfectly timed, seasons are changing. We're going into fall. Leaves are changing, trees are letting go, leaves are falling, and weather's changing. It just, I don't know. And I think that that's what's so nice about the seasons is that it's like predictable change. I think that's why the seasons are comforting. It's, okay, I can't exactly pinpoint on this day it's going to be, 40 degrees, like say that 4 months ago. But I'm like, all right, I know about in October, it'll get cooler.
Mm, yeah. It's I feel like it's a way to look at the future with predictability, especially if your life's in a lot of turmoil or chaos and you just don't know what's reliable. You don't know, there's nothing stable. And so that's, I think, why a lot of people look at the weather. I'm not sure that's why they look at the weather, but this is what I think, that it's a predictable, it's something that they can look forward to. Maybe they don't have much to look forward to in life. So they look at the weather and, try to find something there to expect that's not negative, or like the seasons, the sun, the moon, all these natural rhythms that we experience that are very consistent, very reliable.
Mhm.
We can look to those as a way to look at the future that is that we just know is a solid pattern that we can lean on, and
Yeah,
it's positive. It's a positive. I feel like a lot of stuff in nature is just positive. Not all of
yeah,
it, but
absolutely. And it all has its purpose, and I think in general, just you can never really go wrong with getting more connected or in tune with nature because we're so far removed from it. And just the more you can get out, the more you can just look at the moon. Even last night, I let Sirius out, and we just stood there for like 5 minutes and just looked at the moon. And then, of course, tying the moon to intentions and to goals, and then it's that like reminder of, oh yeah,
I need to do that. I think that'd be really fun to tie, yeah, it's the moon cycle with, like, okay, like you said, with accountability, like, okay, it's full moon. Did I do what I said I was gonna do?
yeah, yeah, we're halfway through. The full moon's on Wednesday, and I think just the new moon, it's so cool, right? It's like that kind of, I don't know. I heard this really beautiful analogy of it, and it was like it's the darkness. You can kind of plant the seed under the soil, and then it's kind of growing as
Hmm.
the moon grows. And then you have this illuminated, huge orb in the sky. And the moon is just super powerful and cool. Anyway, just I don't know how you couldn't just stand outside and be mesmerized by the moon.
Yeah, I think
Me at least.
I think it's harder to I think it's easier to ignore a lot of, like, let's see how I want to phrase this. I think being in nature forces you to, like, recognize your like how small you are.
Yeah.
I think being in a city, sometimes you're just surrounded by man-made creations, and it's not as humbling being in a city where it's just, hustle bustle, and you're just seeing, man-made creation. And then when you step outside in nature, it's like, wow, the sense of awe, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah.
Like, dang.
You're like, wow. Yeah.
And
You're
that's just awesome. And tying it to the moon also kind of zones in your focus, and it helps your, like, what are you focusing on? And that changes your reality, if you're focusing on different things.
yeah.
Your
Or even
attention,
just
your
being
focus.
present, looking at the stars, or even lately I've been trying to get into like, hey, can I identify what star this is? Or, just trying to get back connected with those things. And um oh shoot, I was going to say something.
Say it.
Ah, all right. I think it was important. So I think it will. Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Also just noticing the quiet that comes as it starts getting cooler because all the bugs aren't, bustling at night and the birds are starting to migrate, and just noticing how much quieter it's getting at night. Like when I used to take Sirius out during the summer nights, it's loud and all the insects are chirping, and then in the morning you hear the birds, and even still there's some birds around. But I think that's one of my favorite part about like snows when it snows is just how quiet it gets, because the snow is A, absorbing the sound, and B, just there's just stillness. And I think that level of quiet is really amazing because there's just always chronic noise around us, whether it's that car that's going by or the hum of the electricity or the AC kicking on or whatever it is. And just finding those moments of stillness and quiet. It's never silent, but just how quiet it gets. For me, it's very calming. And
Mm,
just noticing that quiet is starting to come back. Like even I can't explain it, but even like in the forest, it feels like things start to quiet down. It's not as bustling as when you're there in the spring and you can feel that everything is working and getting ready and coming back to life. And then in the fall, it just feels quieter to me. I don't know how to explain it. And maybe
Mhm.
there's some scientific explanation for it, or maybe it's just intuitive. But yeah, the quiet is amazing. Like last night, it was just so quiet. I was standing and looking at the moon. There wasn't the chirping of the insects, or, just, it was just very, and I think that maybe sometimes people can find that quiet a little bit unnerving, because it kind of forces you to be there with your thoughts, and that can be a super unpleasant place to be. So I think it kind of requires maybe a little bit of mastery of the mind, or just an ability to kind of zone in and not, let your thoughts just waltz away and take you with them, and take you out of the moment. But that's hard. That's a practice. I mean, you've got to work on it all the time.
Mhm.
That's why I think, especially as I move into teaching yoga, like, you can't just tell people to sit and meditate for 20 minutes. It's not going to work. Like, it's like a muscle. You can't just go bench 400 pounds or whatever. It's just not going to happen because you don't have the muscle for it. And I think having this expectation of just sit and just clear your mind for 5 minutes, if you've never done that before, it's not going to work. And then you're going to get flustered, because then your mind's going to race even more. And then the more you try to not think, the more you're going to think. And then the more you try to leave thoughts alone, the more you attach meaning to the thoughts, because you're giving them meaning and you're not just brushing them away. And then it just keeps spiraling and spiraling. And that's why I think for getting into meditations, and this is kind of how I'm teaching the current beginner class that I'm teaching, it's okay, let's just give the brain something to think about. Like last week we did a love and kindness meditation. Next week we're going to do a guided affirmations meditation. Then we're going to just do a centering meditation where you just pick a word or a phrase to just repeat. Like the word peace is great to just focus on, because it has so much symbology and you can think of so many things that go with it. And I love just thinking about the word peace. And it's a great way to meditate and find stillness in the mind, but you're giving the mind something to do. So it's not just this like, okay, be quiet now. And
Mhm.
that's,
Yeah, there's different types of meditation, and the ones that are centered a little bit more on a focused, at
yeah,
least something to focus on. Well, I mean, that's what people focus on, the breath. It's just nice to, and I think that's why I love working out, is because in a sense it is a meditation. You're concentrating on the next number, or you're focused on,
yeah,
you have to be zoned in. Anything that forces you to focus in the present moment. And also, I remember doing one exercise. We did like 1,000 sit-ups, or not sit-up, but like, you know, have a weight and then stand up on a ledge and then go down as like step ups, I guess is what they're called. And like thinking too far in the future, you would just be like, I can't do that. I can't do that. So you'd have to go to the present moment and just like, all right, one more, 663, 664. And you're just like, can't even think about anything else because it just sucks so bad. But it's like, taking a bite of the elephant one bite at a time, the incremental
yeah.
mindset, just not thinking too far ahead, but still having a plan, but just, staying right there.
Yeah, it's like that made me think of, I don't know if you've seen the picture that's on social media, but it's like the ladder with the really big steps and the ladder with the really small steps, and like this person is reaching for the first, like the bottom rung of the ladder with the really big steps, and he can't reach it, but the person who's like doing small steps has already made it to step number 5.
Mhm.
And it's just a powerful visual of what you were saying. Yeah, it's like just every moment, every day, you're just getting a little bit closer, but like you said, breaking it into just little pieces. Okay, I can do one more, and then one more becomes 10 more, and then 10 more becomes 100. And
Yeah, we mentioned that I think last time. Just you have to have the humility to recognize that you might not be strong enough to make the big steps. I even think, I mean, this is what we're doing with this podcast, is just taking, baby steps, just enjoying it. But you have to start somewhere, and just keep moving, and who knows how it's going to end up. So that's just the fun part, is you have a broad goal or vision, and then you just don't know where the next step is, but you just keep taking them. It's good. It's a good tactic. It's definitely a great tactic.
and yeah, it's like, then you take 5 baby steps, and that's one of the giant steps. But I was just thinking about this though, like, I don't even know if I really like them being called baby steps, because sometimes those baby steps do feel like really big steps. It does feel like a big accomplishment. Like, I'm sure going from 600 to 650 whenever you were doing that felt really big. Even though, you're only really partially the way there. That, 50 reps is a lot. And so I think also just not viewing it as demeaning, like maybe not that people do this necessarily, but maybe baby steps sounds a little like you're not accomplishing something, but sometimes those can be really big steps that require a lot. And it's,
Yeah, especially the beginning.
I
Uh,
think like not letting big ambitions overshadow small successes type thing. Um, like those are still really big and you're still moving towards something and that's still something to be proud of. And we are, we're our critics and we don't maybe necessarily appreciate the small things, but lately I've been doing this exercise with my yoga class of like just right now in this moment, can you find one thing to be grateful for? Can you find one thing to be proud of? And I think even just extending that into real life is really cool, just in little moments at a stoplight. One thing to be grateful for, one thing that I'm proud of. And, just like they're like little self hugs,
actually, we were talking about, just the alarm clock thing, and we're focusing on, oh, got to wake up on the right time, and it just made me think, maybe I needed better things to worry about, and the other stuff will fall in place. And like I'm spending effort focusing on concentrating on my alarm clock, and then instead of like hitting snooze and be like, oh, you gotta wake up in the morning and snooze or whatever, I just started doing like it kind of happened. It's weird how that just you can just build habits, but I was like, thank you God for this day. And I would still hit snooze, but it would just not be like negative. And then like I was trying to ingrate that in my brain of like a thought pattern. And it's
Yeah.
not it's like what you focus on and what you put your attention to really becomes your reality. It's not just taking care of yourself with food and diet and exercise and sleep. It's also the thoughts, like your thoughts become your words become your actions become your habits become your character becomes your destiny.
Love it. Love that
And
quote.
that's how it is. Um, yeah,
And
it's cool.
and
It's really cool.
self-talk is so crucial because if you choose not to use your words, no one else is going to know how you're talking to yourself. Like that's really only your information. It's really until we decide to speak out and to use our language and our voice that other people can know what's going on inside our heads. And so it kind of goes along with the idea of like you spend 100% of your life inside your head. Make sure it's a nice place to be.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I think kind of we've talked about it, but it really is this it's the small things, it's those moments of gratitude, it's those moments of mindfulness, and especially just I don't know, a big thing for me lately has just been like not trying not to take anything for granted. Like even the other day, opening my fridge, like I have a fridge. That means I have electricity. I have
Yes.
food in
Yes.
the fridge. Like, oh, I gotta clean today means I have a house to live in. Or whatever that may be. And I think even just changing your narrative, like instead of I have to do
Mm,
this, I get to do this.
yes.
Yes,
It's
it's so important.
changing the narrative. I was just about to bring that up about yeah, like what story are you telling yourself, and then like the thoughts. Like everyone has a story. I don't know. I feel like when I moved out here, I was living the cowboy narrative, which is a fun one. You just get to pick your own kind of narrative. Most people follow the normal narrative of life, but yeah, it's just what you focus on becomes, dictates a lot. It really does.
And it really adds up. And like you said, you become the people that you surround yourself with. That's also really important. And just looking at who am I surrounding myself with and what am I putting into my own self, like it's just those little things. Like instead of, oh, I gotta do this and I gotta do this errand and I gotta run here and I gotta do this and I gotta do this. And just, I have a car to drive there. I have this, I have that, and really reframing it. And I don't know, I think just even just making like those little moments of life extraordinary, it just makes it all a lot more fun too. Um, like the other day, just going to the grocery store, I was like, this is so cool. Look at all this stuff that's on, and even just trying to enjoy and slow down and just not viewing everything as a task necessarily, but
Yes.
experience.
Yeah. Because it's satisfying crossing something off a task,
Oh,
but
so good.
it's also nice just you know trying to find things that you really enjoy, and then just everything, usually if you come up with a decent goal, usually other things fall into place and it doesn't feel like effort. So instead of like, I gotta get groceries, it's like I'm gonna make a really good meal tonight and it's gonna be really good. And then you're not like, oh, I gotta get, whatever. It's like, all right, let's get, it's gonna be good, and like I'm gonna enjoy it, maybe have it with somebody else. And that's the goal for me. Like probably the next 2 or 3 weeks is just to try to do that a little bit more with food, of making it more enjoyable rather than necessarily just fuel. I mean, sometimes it's just necessary if I'm crunched for time to just kind of, you know, just get bulk stuff and just have enough food for the day so I can concentrate on other things. But that's why I like country music. A lot of I was listening to Darius Rucker on the way to
Ah,
the grocery store. It's all right by me, shoes on my feet, woman I love. I don't, whatever the lyrics are, I jumble them up. But yeah,
got 'em.
it's just it's a great, honestly, listening to country music. You're writing those words and you're like memorizing them because it's so easy to memorize lyrics. And most of the lyrics, depending on the country songs, Alan Jackson, I've been getting really big into him.
Ah, so
Uh,
good.
and it's just that's the way to listen or practice the gratitude is just by listening to songs, and your inputs determine your outputs. So just putting better inputs in like leads to better outputs. It leads to a better, what you're focused on. Oh, it's just good. Um,
Music especially, like, it has such an instant impact on your mood, like with your sad song challenge you did, not listening to sad music, and just you can put on music, and sometimes, don't get me wrong, you need those like angsty types of music to get you revved up for something. I'm guilty of, not
yeah,
guilty, but
true.
I've
You
done
gotta,
it.
yeah, the sad love songs and all that good stuff.
Yeah, sometimes you need it. Sometimes I'm like, man, I just really need to feel this right now, and I'm gonna put on the music that's gonna help me feel it. And almost sometimes, like, I was talking about this with a friend a few days ago, but like you can almost let music kind of guide you through an experience. Or I've just really noticed that, especially like even sometimes music without lyrics can be really powerful, like some soundtrack music or piano music or whatever it is. Sometimes like that really hits home the most because like I think it's kind of more open to interpretation in a way. Or for soundtracks, especially, maybe for me they're tied with a specific scene that I can think of, and that song instantly brings me to that scene, which I know is a tragic scene, and then I can start feeling that character's emotions, and then that lets me process my own emotions. And that's a really important way to experience and to express what you're expressing, because it's important to get all that stuff out. But yeah, I mean, music has such a profound, or for me at least it does, and I think it's a pretty common thing, but just that instant, like, oh man, now I'm really feeling it. Or, then you're happy and you're upbeat and you're dancing and cooking and it's fun and it's a cool experience and you can kind of move around. But man, music, yeah.
It,
But
I think
yeah, and it really
it's
shapes your thoughts.
and I think smells, like things that have like fragrances, also are really powerful too. But about the music, so I went to a church today, a new church I've been trying out called Red Rocks in Austin, and it just made me think, about how they structure their music. So they'll have a like beginning, they'll have an opening song. It's high energy, fun. Then like that, it's kind of like it's just a classic formula. And then the next one might be a little bit more serious, maybe another serious one, and then the end will have another upbeat song. So it's like something about us. We just need that reminder of this spectrum of emotions, so we don't forget. Like it's just fun, like not fun, but we need it in a sense, like the
Mhm.
spectrum of emotions of getting a little taste, and music's a great way to access those emotions.
And I think it can be, music can be very solitary, and it can also be very unifying, which is a cool dichotomy. Like music can really bring you together with someone, whether it's a song, like maybe you have a song with someone that's your song, it comes on, it makes you think of that person, or it brings people together, like that first dance at a wedding or whatever it may be. But then also maybe you have the songs that help you kind of just tune into yourself and go a little bit deeper into your own experience and being. And I think that's a cool thing about music, because it's both a unifier and it can be really good for kind of those introspective moments.
Hmm. It can be dangerous though. I
It
think
can be very dangerous.
I was I was working with some guys at a company, and like I was listening to their music, and it was, in my opinion, just bad. It was just not good. It was just not focused on anything that was positive. It was like talking about a story. There's a lot of stories in music that they sell, and some of the stories are just so negative. And I was like, gosh, this music is awful. And that's what I was like, this no one like no wonder they might be stuck in a rut.
Yeah.
Listening to they never take a break from listening to the music. They don't have that stillness or quietness. Also, "Let's Be Still" by the Head and the Heart. It reminded me of that. I don't know if you know that song.
Yep.
Um,
Oh.
and so it's just like I've been thinking also about the idea of being locked in. So once you get locked into a reality,
Oh,
like
scary.
you might be locked in for years. You
Yeah,
might be locked in for years, and sometimes there's no escape
yeah,
depending on what world you live in. And sometimes it's just things can be vicious cycles. And the idea of me really wanting to have moments and time set apart before I enter, of me being able to take a step back and reflecting. I think Tim Ferriss talked about it, like he broke it. He's so analytical. He would break it down. Like, I don't know if he does this still, but he talked about it. Like every quarter, he spends one weekend like fasting alone somewhere. Like so he already has it scheduled out. And so even if you know, or having a stop date of whatever it is, like for example, like moving to Austin or something like that, I have a stop date, or um, like every month or something, where just take a step back and reflect, to break yourself out of whatever you're in, to get some perspective, to reanalyze, reflect. And so you're a little bit detached from yourself, and you can maybe change momentum, change gears, instead of potentially going down a bad path for a long time.
yeah.
Just being locked in, engaged in things that when you're in it, you can't see clearly and everything's foggy.
Well, because that, locked in, like it can be a prison and a poison all in one.
Ooh, that is good. I like
Oh,
that.
thanks. I just came up with it. I was thinking, I don't know, both of those words came to mind when you said that, like locked in, because having had and I think it's, kind of universal that sometimes we get in ruts and they can be hard to break out of, and that's okay because that's part of the human condition. Um, but that made me just want to kind of turn this a little bit more, not that this isn't already a discussion, but so having those weekends where you step back and reflect, or like you're saying Tim Ferriss does, but then when is it appropriate to do it individually and introspectively versus asking others for their opinions and being receptive to feedback from other people, because maybe what I think of myself isn't what you think of me. And that and what do you think about that kind of balance of asking other people versus coming up with it on your own, and how reliable are we as narrators?
Yeah, that's a good point. I've actually been thought of ever since I played Survivor last weekend. It made me think about teamwork and collaboration, and how a lot of times it made me realize a lot of times I just try to make decisions, and then like almost not like an ultimatum, but like, I'm doing this. Do you want to come or not? Which is fine, but I rarely. That means my goal is to do the activity, to get better at the activity, whether that be jujitsu, guitar, dancing, whatever. And I realized it's very goal oriented, which is, I guess that's how I am, but it's not people oriented. So another tactic would be, instead of me saying, I'm doing this, do you want to come? Say, hey, what do you want to do tomorrow? And then now it's a collaboration.
Yeah,
But I feel like I'm not doing that because I don't want to, I want to do what I want to do,
that
you know?
requires a sacrifice on your part,
Well,
right?
yeah, then I'm like, do I want to make that sacrifice? Like, no. But and sometimes you don't have to, like,
Because I really actually don't necessarily want to spend time with this
I
person.
don't know, it's like I'm like, dang, I don't want to spend time. I just want to do what I want to do. I'm just kind of. But then if you keep doing that, like you'll eventually potentially find people that line up where no one has to make sacrifices.
Yeah.
Like kind of like hopefully with the guys that dance that are also going to the church, that could be a community that involves both, to where it's just like it's easy. It's lucky, but yeah, I think that's why it's hard for me to, and I like to figure things out on my own. I enjoy figuring things out on my own, even if it's harder and it's not as productive. Like the process of learning. If I keep this up, the process of learning, I'll get better and better at it on my own. So that's exciting, of like making decisions. But at the same time, two minds, three minds, four minds, the ones that you can trust are often better than one. And yeah, I need to. I feel like if I was gonna ask, it'd be my family or like close friends. Not really trust anybody else for any important decisions that
Oh
way.
no, no. I was
Maybe that goes involving trying to find mentors, looking for good mentors that you can make decisions with, and they can help you guide you in whatever direction you want to go. So maybe I need to start looking for those. I don't know.
and then it's also challenging though, because that requires another level of vulnerability, like sharing if you've been in a rut, or if you and then I think it becomes how much, like how reliable are you, and making sure that you're putting an adequate amount of trust in yourself. Like you're not getting overconfident that I have all the answers and I know everything. Being willing to hear what other people have to say, even if it's more constructive feedback than positive feedback, like, hey, as your friend, I just think you can work on X. Because, right, like, I think that's something I've been thinking about is I think that's the role of a true friend, is to help you improve. Because, and Jordan Peterson said this, and I loved this, but he was like, I think when you truly love someone, it's because you see their potential. And I found that really impactful. And just then your responsibility as someone who loves that person is helping them achieve said potential. And you're not being honest with them, or, you know, not that you would be, but hindering their potential. Um,
But they have to be receptive towards it too. So that's why this is one of the thought patterns that I had, and I feel like I had a lot of breakthroughs senior year because I had this mindset. I was like, I'd say like, man, I really want to tell my friend this, but he didn't even ask, and I
yeah,
don't feel like he's going to be receptive towards it, and it might come across as me being either self-righteous or like thinking I know it all, like which I don't. And then it made me think about myself. I was like, does anybody out there have that exact same thought process towards me that I could really benefit from? I could really benefit from, but I'm not asking because I'm not receptive and open towards this criticism.
right.
And that's a great tool to use, is whenever you want to tell somebody something, whenever you want to act out something, switch it back on yourself and then figure out a way for you to be the person that people can tell you that to, or like try to make it possible, whatever you're trying to do for somebody else for their own good. I try to revert it back and see like, okay, I'm going to ask others. So I'm like, hey, is there any, maybe be more proactive and like, hey, is there anything that you like, not force conversations, but be intentional about conversations and be like, um, is there anything that it can go both ways, because you don't want to be like always having the mindset of like, oh, I'm doing something wrong, I need to fix it.
No, I think
But
check-ins every once in a while, and maybe that's something that I'm thinking of. I want to incorporate a little bit more into my life, is like honest, not, I mean, I already have honest relationships with my friends, but what do you think about this, or just open communication, because sometimes those can be harder things to share. And as a friend, you just want to be supportive, and you want to be uplifting and encouraging, and but also honoring the role. And maybe I'm kind of thinking about this a lot, because as I've gone to leave this company, they've been asking for a lot of feedback, and what feedback are you willing to give and to share. And being more forthcoming with that has made me think maybe I should be doing this to others. But then, like you said, you don't want to come across as well, I have all the answers and this is what you need to be doing, because you're not doing whatever.
I think they have to ask themselves, like, it's kind of like,
And how much do you trust? Like, I think there's so much you can do with yourself, and then bringing in outside perspectives, that set of eyes is really good. You know what I mean? If
yeah,
you're prepared to hear it. Because I think if you start relying on yourself solely and you're not open to what other people have to say, I think that's a dangerous realm to go into.
yeah. It's like, how, I guess it goes back to how badly when people say they want stuff, but if they, how badly do they really want it? Um, and I remember I would ask, I still do it a little bit, but ask questions I don't really know care about the answer to. And I've just realized like I just kind of stopped asking them, unless it's for small talk and like getting to know somebody. But it's like, if they did something, or if like they did something that I probably don't really want to know about, I'm just probably not going to ask, It's like, I don't really want to be receptive towards whatever they're going to tell me. It's like I kind of want to be focused on other things. I don't know.
Do you have an example?
Yeah, I do. But I don't want to say it on and put it out there on the interwebs in cyberspace.
On air. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. That's a tough balance. Is just the podcast and not oversharing. That's a tough one.
Yeah. And I don't know though. Taboo things are kind of fun. Could be fun to tap into.
Yeah,
Not oversharing, obviously, or doing anything, like that you wouldn't feel comfortable. But
we're easing into the unknown at a rate to where it's not too comfortable, but not too chaotic, and we're finding our balance between the order and chaos, if you will.
Boom. Perfect summary.
And on that note, actually, I do have to roll out. Um,
We should change the name of the podcast to Order and Chaos.
Mini Jordan Petersons, at least for me. Yeah. Um, we have a lot more to talk about, but we'll get it. We'll get it next week.
We'll get it.
All right. All right. Have a good one.